Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Brexit Summit here in Leeds this morning, and congratulations to those of you who have managed to arrive here despite all the train chaos. I was on the train this morning, and the gentleman beside me said, "It's chaos on the trains this morning." I said, "Yes, I know. And he said, "I think they're trying to confuse the Russians. That's what's behind it." So there we are. I think if only it was sophisticated as that. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Longlands and I am the Director of IPPR North, and we're delighted to be working with City-REDI from the University of Birmingham today on this event looking at the impacts of Brexit and how we respond to it as policymakers in our own work. For those of you who don't know IPPR North, we are the dedicated think tank for the north of England, one of the few outside the Westminster bubble. We hold events like this, we produce research, and we also bring people together to talk about how we respond to the challenges facing the North now and in the future. We'd like to kick off our event by inviting Tom Reardon, the Chief Executive of Leeds City Council, to welcome you all today and to provide an introduction from Leeds. Tom.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for the two claps there. That was... It's all right. No standing ovation needed, yes. Welcome to Leeds. It's always sunny here, as you can see, those of you who don't come to the city very often. And it's great to have this event here today. We were dubbed by the BBC the 50-50 city in Leeds because we voted by a fraction to remain during the after the referendum. I was the returning officer for Yorkshire and Humber for the count as well, and so I remember that night very well, where the sort of views about what was going to happen shifted even by the minute actually, and the result was, I think, a surprise to many people, but not a surprise to nearly an equal amount of people. And I'm welcoming you today as someone who isn't a politician. So I have the task for 10 minutes of talking about Brexit without saying anything quotable or controversial, which is almost impossible, I would say. I mean, our city of Leeds does reflect the UK quite well. We have a very diverse group of communities. We speak 140 languages in this city. We have a real balance of the affluent, the suburbs, the rural areas of Leeds. The Emmerdale soap is shot within our city boundary, to give you an idea of the fact that it's not all in a city. It's got a very wide hinterland, but we've got everything in between the wonderful city centre that we continuing to build. And elsewhere, like the classic inner city areas, former coal mining areas in the east of the city. And what you get is, and it's why a lot of health research takes place in Leeds actually, because we have this almost perfectly reflective demographic of the country. The fact that we were just voting one way or another is not a surprise to us. So we as a city have had to deal with and see our responsibility to deal with that split of opinion and split of view about whether Brexit is a good or a bad thing for the country. So you won't hear politicians in Leeds speaking always speaking for one side of the issue. You will hear them being a bit more circumspect and a bit more thoughtful, I would say, about how we're going to navigate our way through as we leave the European Union, to make sure that what happens over the other side of it benefits not just one part of the city, but all parts of the city. And I think all I would say is it's been very hard in the last year to differentiate for somebody who is trying to be a bit more thoughtful about it and a bit more is actually having to deal with the consequences of it, to see through the rhetoric at that national level from all sides, I've got to say. And so today, I think, is a really good opportunity, hopefully, for us to take a look at these things. And it's great to have the political views, and we're going to have some of those. It's great that Steve's here from Liverpool, and we're going to hear from some of the views from both sides. I saw Richard Corbett is on the agenda as well, passionate, advocate of the European Union and our membership of it. But we do have to have both sides of the picture, I think, to be able to navigate our way through to the other side. Leeds has risks, big risks with our economy, as has been flagged up by Centre for Cities, as one of those places that in either a hard or a soft Brexit, we would have some things to manage within our economy. Equally, we are one of those areas that we're an outward-looking regional centre with major international links and a global outlook on the world, whereby there are opportunities as well for us from this next period that we want to capitalise on. Maybe if I could just give you a bit of a picture of what's happened since the referendum in the city, to give you a bit of to bring that context to life a bit and see what's actually happened here as a result of the referendum vote and the work that's gone on since. When it first came out, we had a plan. We did have a plan in Leeds that we put into place with our partners, the business community, the universities and others, because we felt there was a need to respond. And there were 5 areas that we looked at, and that is a way of thinking about how a city like Leeds, or indeed any of the core cities in the UK, the bigger cities in the UK, need to respond to what's happening. And the first one was that we wanted to make sure that investment in major infrastructure and economic development schemes didn't stall as a result of the vote. I've got to say, on the day of the vote, it did feel like it was one of those moments, a bit like I lived through in a policy position, a leadership position through the crash of 2007. And the way that everybody reacted, and I think some of the surprise around the vote, made you feel like we were heading for another period like that. And it hasn't happened. I've got to say that there hasn't been a stalling of development schemes in our city. We have continued to work very successfully to get investment into Leeds, and we have also managed to make sure that we are continuing a pipeline of investment and development that is there into the future. I would say that the trends that have continued, that maybe you could argue were partly as a result of, resulted in some of people's disillusionment with globalisation and the fact that the economic reason for being of certain places, including in our own city, aren't there anymore in the same way they were 20, 30, even 10 years ago. Those trends haven't stopped. They've still continued. So the smaller second-tier retail centres, the second and third-tier places, we still have a huge challenge to make sure that they benefit in the same way that a thriving city centre like Leeds does. And our city-region partnership, our approach to devolution, is actually aimed very much at tackling that dichotomy, that challenge that all policymakers are thinking about. How do you get a balance between rural areas, smaller towns and cities and the big cities across our economy? And those trends have continued, and I don't see anything in the current policies that are coming out that are addressing that at the moment. And that's a bit of what I mean about us needing to have a solution post our leaving of the European Union for that economic policy, and the fact that we need that balance in our local areas, not just for the big cities but for everyone. We were very much operating in an area where we wanted to support our businesses and key institutions. Our universities have a huge number of students. Leeds University has 1,300 students who are from the EU and 690 staff. And Leeds Beckett has an additional 545 students and 184 staff. So that's just 2 universities in Yorkshire. And you can see the challenge of the university sector needing to continue to be global, to continue to link into and get the academics, some of which may well be in this room, who we want to stay, we want to be part of the knowledge economy in our city, and there's a big worry about that area and how we were going to lose people. I've got to say there are some signs that is you know, there are, I'd say, mixed signs there, where there are there have been developments in areas like nursing, where we are very concerned about the numbers of nurses who are still wanting to come and study in the cities in the UK, and we want to make sure that that continues. So that's a key policy area. And the role of our universities as global institutions, as our windows to the world in a way, is something that we've got to make sure is hardwired into any deal going forward. The third area was about the fact that we're a tolerant and a pretty united city in many ways, but we also have tensions in our communities. And we saw, you know, at the time, a real worry about a spike. Was there going to be a spike in hate crime? You know, is there a big issue for us about tensions between our communities? And what I would say there is that I think that has settled down in terms of this issue, in terms of the immediate response, where there was a real worry and I think a real visceral sense for people who were not born in the UK, of a sense of, you know, does this country really want me anymore? To one where a lot of us have tried really hard to say, of course we do, and we see you as a fundamental part of our future. Equally, the issue of immigration and the level of immigration to this country remains a big political issue that needs to be tackled by policymakers on all sides moving forward, and it doesn't need me to say, everybody knows it. That is a fundamental part of, you know, the solution, whatever deal we end up with. Getting that balance right is going to be important. Fourth area was about us wanting to be an international city. You may have seen that we were bidding for the 2023 Capital of Culture. Unfortunately, the Commission decided that was going to be one of the casualties of the process. So places like ourselves, Belfast, Dundee, aren't now bidding for that. We're not able to, and that's a great pity. We would love to be doing that, but we're going to, in typical Yorkshire fashion, carry on regardless and still have a big celebration in 2023 and make sure that continues. But the links that we've built with cities across Europe, the Eurocities group of which we're part, and all the networks that come out of the relationships that we've built over many years, are something that we believe very strongly we need to continue and should be part of a very positive export and trade approach into the future, where the national level capitalises a lot, maybe more than they've done before in the UK, on the great strong civic links that we have in places like Leeds City region, Bradford and others, who have a lot to offer in terms of that future. The final area I'd just cover before letting you get into your debate is devolution, because I know that you'll know, many of you, that we haven't managed to secure a deal yet for Yorkshire devolution or for Leeds City region devolution in this part of the world, and we really want to. We have got a group of Yorkshire authorities now, 18 out of the 20, who want to move forward on that basis. It'd be great to hear from Steve a bit later about his experience. But the big thing here is not about the particular geography that you support in terms of devolution, but it's about a fundamental change and rewiring of the way the UK runs its affairs. If we don't get devolution in the north of England in a significant way, then the moment of people wanting to take a bit more control of their lives, of wanting to have more ability to shape their own destiny, of decisions being a bit closer to the people they affect, will have been lost. And it's absolutely crucial that we go from a point where, at the moment, we have £3 billion of assets in Leeds City Council. We have an average budget of about 600 million a year. We run 1,000 services pretty well. We can't put a roundabout in our city without asking for permission from a civil servant in Whitehall. We can't take, if a car breaks down on our inner ring road, we have to ask permission for that to be removed from a national agency. Now, that cannot be right, and the key thing here is that the repatriation of European structural funds of other powers does not just sit in Whitehall to be divided up between the departments who already control 95% of the decisions that affect cities like Leeds, but that those decisions are passed through to a local level, to a metro level, to make sure that we have more shape of our own destiny. So I'll finish there. Hopefully I've said nothing that's quotable in the extreme by any journalist in the room, but I really look forward to the debate today. Really welcome you to Leeds and think you're going to have a great debate. So thank you very much.